Archive reference, Greyfall Files 008. The following case did not begin with a disappearance, nor did it begin with an unexplained death. It began inside the Greyfall Archives. During the spring of 1982, archivist Daniel Harrow was assigned a routine preservation project. His task was simple: restore and catalogue hundreds of aging photographs documenting the history of Greyfall. The collection stretched across nearly a century: family portraits, town celebrations, railway platforms, church gatherings, school classes. Nothing about the assignment suggested mystery. For nearly 2 weeks, Harrow worked alone beneath the lanterns of the restoration room, cleaning damaged negatives, repairing cracked glass plates, recording dates, identifying names. Then, while examining a street photograph dated 1914, he noticed something unusual. Near the edge of the frame stood a young girl. She wasn't facing the camera. She wasn't interacting with anyone. She simply stood there, watching something beyond the photograph. At first, Harrow dismissed the image. People often wandered into old photographs by accident. Then he restored another image. This one dated 1938. The same girl appeared again. Same height, same clothing, same dark braided hair, the same distant expression. She had not changed. She had not aged. And according to the date beneath the second photograph, 24 years had passed. Convinced the resemblance was merely coincidence, Harrow continued reviewing the collection. He restored another photograph, then another, then another. Each came from a different decade. Each had been captured by a different photographer. Each documented a different moment in Greyfall's history. Yet the girl continued appearing. A market square in 1896, a railway platform in 1903, a church procession in 1924, children leaving school in 1951, a winter festival in 1968. She appeared in every generation, always standing slightly apart from the crowd, never smiling, never speaking, never acknowledging the photographer. Instead, she always seemed to be watching something outside the frame. Harrow carefully measured her height using architectural references visible in the photographs. The result made no sense. Across 86 years, her height remained identical. Her clothing never changed. Even the folds of her dark coat appeared perfectly consistent. Investigators later compared facial proportions using modern photographic techniques. Every measurement matched. Not approximately, perfectly. By the end of the week, Harrow had pinned 12 photographs across the restoration wall. 12 different years, 12 different cameras. One impossible conclusion: the same young girl had been present in Greyfall for nearly a century, without aging a single day. The discovery immediately attracted the attention of senior archivists. The photographs were enlarged and displayed inside Investigation Room 3. Experts from outside Greyfall were invited to examine the evidence. Some suggested repeated double exposures. Others proposed elaborate photographic manipulation. Every theory collapsed. The cameras had been manufactured decades apart. The negatives originated from different studios. Several photographers had never even met one another. Yet every image contained the same girl. One investigator made a particularly unsettling observation. The girl never occupied the center of the frame. She always appeared near places that would later become significant. Standing beside Greyfall Station, only months before Train 27 disappeared. Watching St. Aldrich's Tower years before the midnight bells were first reported. Visible near Ashcroft Hill, long before the vanished manor entered the archives. She wasn't simply appearing in history. She seemed to be arriving before history happened, as though she already knew which places would one day become mysteries. That realization transformed the investigation. The photographs were no longer historical evidence. They had become warnings. The investigation eventually focused on a single question: who was the girl? Archivists searched school records, birth certificates, church registries, family albums. For weeks, every search ended in failure. Then, an elderly parish volunteer remembered a forgotten name: Eleanor Finch. The archives already recognized it. not because of a child, because of another file. Greyfall Files 002, the impossible photograph. Investigators returned to the cemetery records expecting to confirm the connection. Instead, they uncovered something entirely unexpected. Eleanor Finch had indeed existed. But these records belonged to a different Eleanor. She had died during the winter of 1889, at just 11 years old, nearly 40 years before the adult Eleanor Finch, whose photograph had already become one of Greyfall's greatest mysteries. Two people, the same name, the same family, separated by generations. When the old family album was finally recovered, the investigators found a portrait of the child. Dark braided hair, the same coat, the same expression. It was her. The girl who had appeared across nearly a century of photographs had died before the oldest photograph containing her had ever been taken. The investigation should have continued inside the archives. Instead, it returned to an old photography studio, Arthur Bell's studio. The same studio connected to Greyfall Files 002. Most of Bell's original glass negatives had been recovered decades earlier. Each had been carefully catalogued, each assigned an archive number. When investigators requested the collection, everything appeared complete, until they compared the inventory with Bell's handwritten notebook. One negative was missing, not broken, not damaged, missing. According to Bell's own records, the absent plate had been exposed on October 6, 1919. The notebook described only a single subject: young girl standing beneath the station clock. No customer name, no payment recorded, no finished print. Only that brief description. The storage box showed no signs of forced entry. The catalogue contained no removal authorization. The negative had simply ceased to exist. Yet Bell's notes continued for several pages. He described developing the image 3 separate times. Each attempt produced the same result. The girl remained perfectly clear. Everything else, including the station itself, appeared increasingly faded, as though the photograph no longer wished to remember where it had been taken. The investigation should have continued inside the archives. Instead, it returned to an old photography studio, Arthur Bell's studio. The same studio connected to Greyfall Files 002. Most of Bell's original glass negatives had been recovered decades earlier. Each had been carefully catalogued, each assigned an archive number. When investigators requested the collection, everything appeared complete, until they compared the inventory with Bell's handwritten notebook. One negative was missing, not broken, not damaged, missing. According to Bell's own records, the absent plate had been exposed on October 6, 1919. The notebook described only a single subject: young girl standing beneath the station clock. No customer name, no payment recorded, no finished print. Only that brief description. The storage box showed no signs of forced entry. The catalogue contained no removal authorization. The negative had simply ceased to exist. Yet Bell's notes continued for several pages. He described developing the image 3 separate times. Each attempt produced the same result. The girl remained perfectly clear. Everything else, including the station itself, appeared increasingly faded, as though the photograph no longer wished to remember where it had been taken. Fearing the investigation had reached a dangerous point, the archives ordered one final experiment. A photographer was instructed to revisit every location where Eleanor had previously appeared: Greyfall Station, St. Aldrich's Tower, Ashcroft Hill, the Old Market Square, the abandoned road leading toward the vanished manor. For 2 weeks, nothing unusual occurred. Then, during the final evening of the survey, the photographer reached an empty street near the western edge of Greyfall. Dense fog had begun rolling between the buildings. Visibility dropped rapidly. Just before lowering his camera, he noticed someone standing beneath a gas lamp. A young girl, dark braided hair, the same coat, the same expression seen in every historical photograph. Unlike the previous images, however, this time she was alone. No crowd, no festival, no witnesses, only the photographer. He raised the camera, pressed the shutter. The girl smiled. According to his statement, it was the first time anyone had ever seen her smile. When he looked up again, the street was empty. Only the fog remained. Following the final photograph, the investigation was officially suspended. The archives ordered every image containing Eleanor Finch to be secured inside Evidence Room 2. Access required written authorization from the chief archivist. No further analysis was permitted. For nearly 3 years, the collection remained untouched. Then, during the winter of 1985, a university researcher arrived from London. He specialized in historical photography and had requested permission to study Greyfall's earliest glass negatives. He had never heard of Eleanor Finch. He had never read the investigation. Archivists deliberately withheld every detail. They wanted an unbiased opinion. The researcher spent nearly 6 hours examining the collection. When he finally emerged from the archive room, he appeared unusually pale. He placed the photographs on the desk without saying a word. After several minutes of silence, he asked a single question. "Who is the little girl who keeps following your photographers?" The archivists exchanged uneasy glances. No one had mentioned a girl. No one had suggested the photographs were connected. The researcher slowly turned back toward the archive door. "She isn't standing in the same place," he whispered. "She's getting closer." The archives immediately reopened the case. Every photograph was enlarged once again. This time, investigators ignored Eleanor herself. Instead, they examined the backgrounds. The discoveries were impossible to dismiss. In the 1903 railway photograph, Jonathan Mercer stood near Platform 9, 8 years before his disappearance. In another image from 1924, St. Aldrich's bell tower appeared moments before its first recorded midnight ringing. A market photograph taken in 1931 revealed Hotel Horizon long before Room 307 entered official records. Another image captured the abandoned manor from the Ashcroft Hill investigation. The house stood clearly in the distance, yet the photograph had been taken 25 years before anyone claimed to visit it. Every mystery, every location, every future case. Somehow, Eleanor was already there, not witnessing history, waiting for it. Investigators covered an entire wall with photographs connected by red string. The pattern became undeniable. Greyfall's greatest mysteries did not begin independently. They radiated outward from a single recurring presence. The girl appeared first. Everything else followed. Officially, the Eleanor Finch investigation remains unresolved. No evidence explains how the same child appears across nearly 90 years of photographs. No historical record accounts for her presence. No scientific analysis has identified manipulation, forgery, or error. Yet the file remains active, for one reason. The photographs have not stopped. Every few years, a new image quietly arrives at the Greyfall Archives, sometimes by post, sometimes left anonymously outside the building before dawn. No sender is ever identified. Every photograph contains Eleanor, always closer, always facing the camera. The latest image was received without an envelope. It showed the entrance hall of the Greyfall Archives itself. Archivists immediately recognized the location. The photograph had been taken inside the building, near Evidence Room 2. Standing at the far end of the corridor was Eleanor Finch. She was no longer watching from the background. She was standing only a few steps away, and for the first time in every recovered photograph, she was smiling. Pinned to the back of the image was a handwritten note. No signature, only 6 words. "The next photograph will include you. This file is closed. The mystery is not. Somewhere beyond the fog, another story is already waiting. I am Knox, and Greyfall remembers."
The next story is already waiting. Subscribe to enter the archive.